Okay, Dr. Samuels, I believe we have everyone here when you're ready to get started.
Thank you, Mr. Nunholt. Good evening to everyone, and welcome to the Harrisburg School District business meeting for Monday, November 15th, 2021. I'd like to officially call our meeting to order. Ms. Anderson, would you please conduct roll call?
Mr. Pittman,
Present.
Mr. Williams,
Present.
Ms. Fowler, Ms. Carreras,
Present.
Mr. Thompson Leader,
Here.
Ms. Robinson,
Here.
Ms. Wilburn, Mr. Carter, Mr. Thompson,
Here.
Dr. Samuels,
Present.
Mr. Terman,
Present.
Mr. Selmer,
Present.
Dr. Susky,
Present.
Ms. Anderson is present.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. I would ask that we please pause our video and prepare for the Pledge of Allegiance, and that will be followed by a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Terman, would you care to acknowledge
Yes,
Ms. Davis? Thank you.
yes. Mrs. Tenzie Davis was a staff member at Camp Curtin. She passed away on October 25th. She was a dedicated employee of the Harrisburg School District, a retired employee of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and an advocate for children and families in need, and a 1986 graduate of Harrisburg High School. So if we can please take a moment of silence for Mrs. Tenzie Davis. Thank you, Dr. Samuels.
And thank you very much. Thank you for leading us. And our thoughts and prayers are with the family of Ms. Davis. As we continue this evening, I'd like to approve the minutes from our most recent meeting, which was October 18th, 2021. I'd also like to approve the minutes for the meeting, approve the agenda for this evening's meeting on November 15th, 2021. Ms. Anderson, would you please move forward with public comment?
We have no public comments for tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Terman, I would like to turn the meeting over to you for presentations, a COVID update.
Thank you, Dr. Samuels. In terms of some of the points of pride for this month, congratulations to our Harrisburg football team. They will be playing this Saturday at 1 o'clock at Severance Field. They'll be playing the Wilson Bulldogs. So good luck to the Harrisburg football team. Veterans Day, we had an opportunity to celebrate and honor all of our veterans last Thursday. There were a lot of buildings who they captured who their veterans were and sent a lot of nice thoughts for who the veterans are, especially one campus was John Harris. So just a congratulations and just a very big honor for the veterans who have served our country well, and some of these sacrifices they made for all of us. NJROTC, we had their ceremony last week where congratulations to the 21-22 cadets, some of them who were promoted to new officer ranks for their outstanding leadership. So it was a very nice ceremony. The students were just awesome in terms of their presentation and in terms of the program as well. There were probably 120 students who were participating in NJROTC at John Harris, and the goal is to increase the number of students as we move forward over the next few years. On Friday, a lot of us had an opportunity to Lieutenant Colonel Crystal Turner Childs. She had an historic appointment to the Deputy Commissioner of the Pennsylvania State Police by Governor Tom Wolf. The swearing-in ceremony was hosted by Harrisburg. It was in the Lincoln Building, and it was just a phenomenal event for all of the participants and all of the family and friends who gathered. Also, I can tell you, Mrs. Turner Childs is a very well-spoken individual, and she is looking forward to partnering with Harrisburg to be able to talk to some of the young adults in terms of those who might want to pursue that as a career, and just also motivation for students as well. This week in November is observed as Hunger and Homeless Awareness Week. So that's the 15th and the 19th. Set aside through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to recognize those affected by food insecurity and homelessness. And Harrisburg students, McKinney-Vento program, as well as staff, students, families, and the community members will have 2 opportunities to assist those in need during Hunger and Homeless Awareness Week. If you would like to participate and help support, please visit the district website at www.hbgsd.us for details. And in terms of a COVID update, we only had within the past couple of weeks, there was only one school that we had a little bit of an uptick in terms of students and staff members who were positive for COVID. So it's been relatively calm on the COVID front within the schools. So a very big thank you for all of the staff members who are following all of the guidelines in terms of social distancing and also making sure that we keep masks up for students and for staff members and getting to do a better job of cleaning of the buildings and so forth. So congratulations to all the staff members as they have really come together to really at this point in time to provide safety for all students and for staff as well. All right, next we are going to shift. All right, I'm sorry, one more thing. The school board recognition. So I did receive 2 certificates for Mr. James Thompson and for Miss Danielle Robinson for 8 years of service as school board directors. So they are on the PSBA's honor roll. So we have those certificates in the superintendent's office ready to distribute to them. And also definitely want to acknowledge the outgoing board members. Unfortunately, I've only had a few months to work with you, but have become very fond of the board members who will be transitioning off. That's Mr. Judd Pittman, who's been on the board for 6 years. Ms. Carrie Fowler, been on the board for 4 years. Mrs. Jennifer Wilborn and Ms. Nora Carreras, who've been on the board for a few months. So a very big thank you for all of the board members for all their hard work and everything they've done for the Harrisburg School District. We really appreciate your commitment to the students of Harrisburg.
And I'd like to take 30 seconds, Mr. Chairman, in joining you in thanking the board members for all of their service, their support to the children and families of the Harrisburg School District. Thank you all so very much.
And daily operations resolution to recommend the receiver to authorize the superintendent and administration to conduct daily operations of the school district from November 16, 2021 through January 18th, 2022, operations to include but not limited to payment of bills and hiring or replacing personnel that do not encumber new or additional funds.
Great. Thank you for that recommendation. As we know, the holiday season is quickly approaching and quickly upon us. I'd like to approve and authorize the superintendent and administration to conduct daily operations of the school district during the time period that includes November 16th through January 18th. And of course, we understand that this is very important to continue the operation of the school district. But this is not limited to the payment of bills and hiring and replacement of personnel that do not encumber. We will ensure that this is not to encumber new or additional funds. And based on that caveat, the recommendation is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Samuels. Next, we will shift to human resources. So before I bring Mrs. Lewis on, some of the items on here is, approving the job description for an assistant to the superintendent. That will be on there, supervisor of extended learning opportunities. And if we shift down for a little bit, keep going down. Having a new business manager for the Harrisburg School District, Dr. Marcia Stokes, will be brought today to be the new business manager for the Harrisburg School District. So I will turn it over to Mrs. Lois.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Our typical approval requests for this evening include under item A, approval of the job descriptions, 8 listed. Therefore, Dr. Samuel's approval.
Thank you for sharing, Mrs. Lewis. The recommendation to approve the following job descriptions as reflected. The 8, which include the assistant to the superintendent, data compliance, director of human resources, school, and that's something I would like to just spell out, a director / a school police officer for safe schools. That's something that, again, we will talk more about and continue to share with the public as we continue to focus on safety in all of our schools. In addition to the online attendance monitor and the learning teacher of record, both to support our online virtual programs, HVLA in particular, the PIMS, Penn Data Accountant, in addition to a supervisor of extended learning programs. The public will receive additional information as we look to support students. We've talked a lot about ESSER funds, et cetera. And our goal as a school district is to really take a look at how we support students through extended learning programs, before and after school programs. And we need someone in the district to do just that to assist us. The recommendation for the 8 job descriptions that are reflected on the screen are approved as presented. Thank you.
Under item B, retirements, we have one teacher stating she will retire at the end of this school year, actually the end of the summer.
First of all, we'd like to thank Ms. Schaefer for her service, and we're delighted that she will be with the Harrisburg School District throughout the entire school year. And the recommendation to accept her retirement is approved as presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Under item C, resignations and end of service, we have 18 former staff members listed under this section.
The recommendation to approve the resignations and end of service for the 18 staff members that are reflected on the screen is approved as presented. And we'd also like to thank each and every one of these staff members for their service to the Harrisburg School District.
Thank you. Under section D, new staff, there are 14 new members of our team, including, of course, Dr. Stokes as our business administrator. as Mr. Chairman mentioned earlier this evening.
Yes, thank you. It is a pleasure to welcome Dr. Marcia Stokes as the Business Administrator for the Harrisburg School District. We are excited, and we know that's a very, very important role. In addition to welcoming Dr. Marcia Stokes, it is a pleasure to welcome the 13 other new staff members that are reflected on the screen. We are simply delighted to welcome and embrace the new staff members, and we look forward to supporting them and looking forward to great things to happen. So welcome, and this recommendation is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Under item E, change of status of staff members moving from one position to another within the organization.
The recommendation for the change status for the 18 staff members that are reflected on the screen is approved as presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Under item F, column movements for teachers who have accumulated credits in order to make such a move with the salary schedule.
The recommendation for the column movements for the 5 employees is approved as presented.
Thank you. Item G, supplementals or stipends for the 21 teachers listed below.
The recommendation for supplementals and or stipends for the 21 staff members reflected is approved as presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Under item H, this is the remainder of the fall athletic stipends. Most seasons have ended, but as Mr. Chairman mentioned, football continues, so we will have additional extended season stipends to be listed next month, as well as the winter sports.
Thank you. And as you articulated, again, you have done this in portions, and this is the second half. Thank you. The recommendation for the athletic stipends for fall 2021 for the 24 staff members is approved as presented. Thank you.
The next item is a notation of family medical leave of absences currently listed with the district.
And we are aware that the family medical leave information that's provided is part of our goal to be totally transparent. And this is for public information. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final item this evening under the HR section is requesting the approval of an MOU with Act 93 regarding bonus.
The recommendation for the memorandum of understanding with members of Act 93 regarding the bonus is approved. And this is something that was addressed some time ago and also a part of their formal agreement with the Harrisburg School District. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mrs. Willis.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Lewis. Thank you, Dr. Samuels. We are now going to shift to the business part of the agenda, and that will be done by Mr. Chris Summer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Letter A, we have no grant awards for consideration this evening. Letter B is our treasurer's report for the period ending of end of October, and the amount is listed there. We're in a very strong, remain in a very strong cash position. So our finances are in very good shape as we head into the next couple of months.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Summer. The recommendation for the approval of the treasurer's report, and it is reflected on the screen for all to see. The recommendation for the treasurer's report for the period ending October 31st, 2021 is approved as presented.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Samuels.
Thank you.
Letter C is approval of budget transfers in the amount listed on that resolution. Just want to note the majority of those transfers have to do with expenses moving into the ESSER 2 funding as we completed that application and we continue to revise the different expenses that will be funded through those ESSER 2 funds.
Great. Thank you for that clarification and the background information. The recommendation for the ratification of the accounts payable checks. And we see there are specific dates that include October 19th.
Dr. Samuels, I'm sorry to interrupt. We're going to do letter C, the budget transfers.
Okay,
I'm
so sorry.
That's okay. So the budget transfers are listed there, $1.994 million, $641. And again, the majority of those transfers.
And you said
have to do
ESSER, so thank you
with
very
ESSER 2.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm skipping ahead, actually. I began to look at item D, and we're on C. So the recommendation for the approval of the budget transfers, and as you stated, Mr. Summer, in reference to largely this is due to our ESSER dollars. This budget transfer in the amount of $1,994,641 is approved as presented. And now, thank you for addressing the ratification. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, letter D is the ratification account payable checks. There's 11 there for your consideration. All the dates and the amounts are listed in each item.
Great, thank you. And now, the recommendation for the ratification of the accounts payable checks for the dates reflected. You see October 19th, 2 for October 22nd, October 29th, in addition to 2 for November 1st, November 5th, 7th, and 3 for November 10th. The recommendation for the ratification of the accounts payable checks are approved as presented in the amounts reflected. Thank you.
Thank you. Letter E is ratification of payroll. There's 2 ratification of payrolls, one for October 29th and the other for November 12th for your consideration.
Thank you. The recommendation for the ratification of payroll processing for time periods that include October 29th, 2021 and November 12th, 2021. Both are approved as presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Letter F, there's no repository bids for consideration this month. Letter G are 1 donation, and we're recommending the ratification with appreciation of the music instrument donation drive conducted in collaboration with the Harrisburg School Public Foundation, the Harrisburg Young Professionals Network, and the Harrisburg Symphony Orchestra. And they collected a total of 17 instruments that were donated to the school district. So very, very appreciative of this donation.
Thank you. And quite an amazing array of instruments this donation includes. So I join you in thanking the Harrisburg Public Schools Foundation, Harrisburg Young Professionals, and the Harrisburg Symphony Orchestra. The recommendation, this ratification for the acceptance of the instruments is approved as presented. And I join you also, along with Mr. Chairman, in thanking each of these entities for their generosity. Thank you.
Thank you. Letter H, there are 2 requests for facility usage. I just want to note on both those requests, we do have a line in there regarding COVID protocols that will be followed for both those groups, and just wanted to make note of that.
Thank you. The recommendation for the use of facilities with this stipulation that you just shared in reference to adhering to COVID protocols, the recommendation for these 2 entities is approved as presented.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Letter I is the ratification of use of facility requests, and there are 2 there for your consideration.
Okay. The recommendation for the ratification of the use of facilities for these 2 entities, November 12th and November 14th, is approved as presented.
Thank you.
Thank
Letter
you.
J are fundraisers, and I believe there are 6 there for your consideration.
The recommendation for the 6 fundraisers is approved as presented, and we see that there are a variety several of our SciTech high school. And those recommendations are for fundraisers are approved as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Samuels. And before I turn it back to Mr. Terman, I'd like to just take a quick moment. Dr. Mumeen is on with us this evening, and I would just like to publicly thank her for her service to the Harrisburg School District. Dr. Mumeen is in the transition phase where she's going to be taking on an exciting new role with the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, which will begin on January 1st. And I believe this will be her last meeting. So I would be remiss if I didn't thank her for all her hard work here in the Harrisburg School District. Thank you, Dr. Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Sommer. I too would like to pause and to thank Dr. Mumeen for all of her service in the Office of Accountability and just helping in a variety of ways, various committees, various activities. And once again, Dr. Mumeen, there's still opportunities for you to support the Harrisburg School District. And so we appreciate all of your help. And I look forward to following up with you later today as well. And Mr. Chairman?
And I guess I'm going to have to jump in too and say a very big thank you to Dr. Mumeen. I can tell you she has been so professional throughout this time and helping me over the past couple of months and helping me in my learning curve with federal programs and also the onboarding of a new federal programs coordinator to the point where she can honestly reach out and call and touch base with Dr. Mumeen at any time. And she's always been there to support her, even when she doesn't need to. So I just do want to publicly thank her as well, because she's just been phenomenal over the past couple of months for me. So thank you.
Thank you. And
All
also,
right.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Dr. Samuels, Mr. Selmer, Mr. Terman. Thank you for the opportunity to serve the Harrisburg community. And I look forward to continue to support, as Dr. Samuels has said. Thank you so much.
awesome. Thank you so very much, Joe. I'd also like to take a moment to thank Mr. Selmer, who's been doing double duty, working through Office of the Receiver, working Chief Operating Officer, and supporting our business office, and doing a yeoman's job at that. So thank you also for this as we welcome Dr. Stokes.
I was going to say it's been a pleasure, but I am very excited that Dr. Stokes was approved this evening. So welcome aboard, Dr. Stokes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Selmer, Dr. Samuels. We're now going to shift to the Office of Academics. So I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Sneath.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Dr. Samuels.
Good evening, Dr. Sneath.
I have just a few things for your approval. Under affiliation agreements, I'd like to request approval for an affiliation agreement between our school district and Literate by Design, who is Ms. Joy McKenzie, for her continued work in the district literacy continuum and intervention plan in the amount of $1,636.25. That is funded through Title I. Request approval for a contract with Latino Connections to provide translation services for the 21-22 school year at the rate of $95 per hour. This would be funded through the general fund. Request approval for an affiliation agreement between our school district and Mr. Brian Majors for his Triumph Changing a Narrative program and his mentoring lunch bunch for Roland Academy from November 11th, 2021 through June 8th, 2022 in the amount of $15,850. This is funded through the CSI funding for Roland. Recommend approval for an agreement between the school district and Performance Fact LLC to engage the school district in strategic planning to support the implementation of academic goals outlined in the amended recovery plan. Cost is not to exceed $40,000. The funding source is the general fund. And the last contract is recommend approval for Harrisburg School District to enter into a contract with Herff Jones Printing for a multi-year contract for the Harrisburg High School yearbook that would encompass the 2022, 2023, and 2024 school years, and the amount stays the same each of those years at $12,323.12. This is all funded through the general fund.
Great. Thank you for sharing the recommendations for the affiliation agreements. The recommendation for the affiliation agreement with Literate by Design, Ms. Joy McKenzie, is approved as presented. The recommendation for the approval of the contract with Latino Connections for the 21-22 school year is approved as presented. The recommendation for Mr. Brian Majors LLC to support Roland Academy is approved as presented. And as you mentioned, this will be funded from their or through their CSI dollars. The recommendation for the agreement with Performance Fact LLC is approved as presented. And finally, the recommendation for between the Harrisburg School District to support Harrisburg yearbooks for the 3 consecutive years presented, the 2022, 2023, 2024. Herf Jones Printing is approved as presented in the amount not to exceed $12,323.12. And I understand that the purpose of the approval this evening is to maintain the standard of this price to prevent the price increase. And that's also to be funded through the general fund. So the recommendation for those 5 affiliation agreements are approved as presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 1, there is a little error there. Request ratification for approval for Ms. Lexi Douglas, FUS PE teacher, to attend the PA State Conference for Health and PE Teachers. She attended on her day off, which was November 11th, and also on November 12th of last week. This was at no cost to the district. Recommend ratification for the approval for Morel Devlin, Roland music teacher, to attend the PA Music Educators, the PMEA District 7 Professional Development Day. He attended this with the other music teachers on October 11th in the amount of $75 funded through the general fund. Recommend approval for a contract for professional development with Power School Special Programs to utilize our new IEP writing system. This is retroactive from October 7th, 2021 through October 6th, 2022 in the amount of $2,100. This too is funded through the general fund. And lastly, recommend approval for Power School Naviance training and consulting in the amount of $3,750 funded through the general fund.
Great. Thank you. Under the category of professional development, the 2 ratifications. First, you share the ratification for Ms. Lexi Douglas, who attended the Pennsylvania State Conference for Health and Physical Education Teachers on November 11th and 12th at no cost to the district. The second ratification was for the approval of Morel Devlin, Roland music teacher, to attend the Pennsylvania Music Educators Association District 7 Professional Development on October 11th. Those 2 ratifications are approved as presented. Further approval for professional development with Power School Special Education Programs for new IEP writing. That recommendation is approved as presented. And finally, the recommendation for Power School Naviance Training Consultant is approved as presented in the amount of $3,750. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Under item C, special education, there are only 2. Recommend an agreement between Harrisburg School District and Maxim to provide temporary para-educator services at the rate of $35 per hour for the remainder of the 21-22 school year. As you know, Dr. Samuels, we still maintain many vacancies in our para-educators and we need them. So I'm requesting this approval. This would be funded through the general fund. And then item 2 is recommend approval for an agreement between our district and Yellow Breeches for the transportation services of 4 students at the rate of $6,589 per student for the rest of the school year, funded through the general fund.
Great, thank you. The recommendation for the agreement between the Harrisburg School District and Maxim for temporary paraeducator support is approved as presented. And the recommendation for the agreement between Yellow Breeches and the Harrisburg School District for transportation services for 4 students is approved as presented as well. Thank you.
Under item D, student services, I'm requesting the approval to expand the Camelot Pause program to serve up to 75 students in grades 6 through 8, beginning in January 2022. The final cost for the 21-22 school year is not to exceed $675,000. The contract itself is not finalized, but we will add it to the board agenda for January 2022 business meeting. The funding source would be ARP ESSER funding.
Thank you for sharing, Dr. Smith. And I just want to make note, the recommendation, the approval of this recommendation is to proceed. As you mentioned, there are still some addendums to the contract that need to be addressed, and that will be ratified in January 2022. So therefore, I am approving this particular recommendation with the understanding that it will appear again in January. So I am approving this in its current state as this recommendation has been presented. So thank you.
Thank you. Under item E, Learning Resource, recommend approval for a 12-month contract with Edmentum to provide reading eggs licensing for elementary students district-wide as a computer-assisted reading intervention. This is in the amount of $26,388. This is funded through the 2021 Title I carryover funding.
Thank you. The recommendation for a 12-month contract, and I'm going to ask one point of clarification though, with Edmentum to provide reading eggs licensing for elementary students, which is a computer-based assisted intervention program. Dr. Sneed, just a point of clarification, because it says a 12-month approval contract, would you articulate the time period?
So we just negotiated this contract over the last couple of weeks, knowing that we needed a reading intervention program that was individualized and differentiated for children. This would be a program, it's a highly engaging program for young learners. It's research-based, has excellent results. Our children would work independently on their reading eggs account while the teacher is working with a small group for instruction. This would begin, it's supposed to begin tomorrow if approved, and would go to November of 2022.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. So based on the information that you provided, the background information, the recommendation for this agreement contract is approved as presented. Thank you.
Thank you. And my last item for tonight, we had to revise our 2 ATSI elementary plans for the 21-22 school year. Our ATSI plans are for Scott Elementary and Foose Elementary. They are attached here for public review, but they are also on the website as of Friday, the 12th for public review. And I just wanted to make note that these are up and ready for review. And there's an access for people in the community if they would like to give me some feedback on these 2 plans. My contact information is right there on the website.
Great, thank you. And we encourage the public to take a look at these plans. They're designed to support the improvement and the enhancement of both Foos and Scott. So the recommendation for the approval of the ATSI plans for Scott and Foos are approved as presented. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Dr. Sneath, and thank you, Dr. Samuels. We will now shift to the Office of Operations and Mr. Glass and Mr. Normo.
Thank you, Mr. Terman. Good evening, Dr. Samuels.
Good evening, Mr. Glass.
I have a couple items for your consideration this evening. Under technology, item number 1, I recommend ratification of a PEPM contract purchase with CDW Government for 120 OWL cameras for classrooms. Total cost is $141,906, and the funding source is ARP ESSER. Item number 2, I recommend approval of a 12-month extension with Comcast Cable Communications Management, LLC, for the district's wide area network Ethernet network services circuits for the period July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023. Total cost is $159,886.56. Funding source is a general fund. And I just want to make note that because we fully participate with the free and reduced lunch program, the district receives a 90% discount on that price. We get discounted bills. And so that total cost at the end will be $15,988.
Thank you. And that makes such a huge difference, with the E-rate. Thank you. In reference to the recommendations for technology in the area of technology, the recommendation for the ratification of the PEPM contract for the purchase with CDW Government for 120 OWL cameras is approved as presented. And it's also noted the ARP ESSER funds as the source for those OWL cameras. In addition, the recommendation for the approval of a 12-month extension with Comcast Communications Management, LLC, is approved as presented. And once again, through E-rate, that is a tremendous and noteworthy savings for the school district. Thank you very much for sharing.
Welcome. And under facilities, item number 1, very excited about this item. I recommend approval of a contract with JMT Incorporated. The professional service contract is for the design, competitive bidding, as well as project management for the following at Severance Field. Item number A, replacement of existing field surface with new synthetic turf. Item number B, replace existing track surface with new track surface. Item number C, convert existing grass area D with new track surface material. Item number D, stormwater management, erosion, and sedimentation control design for the improvements. Item E, new LED lighting. And item F, new sound system. The turf and track has exceeded its life expectancy. It is imperative that items A through D be taken care of as soon as possible. Items E and F will be bid as an alternate and considered should funding be available, and or items A through D come under budget. Total cost is $57,100, and the funding source will be the general fund.
That is very exciting. That is extremely exciting. The recommendation for the approval of the contract with JMT Incorporated is approved as presented. And as you articulated, the professional services contract is for the design and competitive bidding. And that's what, has to be underscored for this extensive management project for Severance Field. And then you articulated the specifications. So on that note, the recommendation is approved as presented. Thank you, Mr. Glass.
Thank you, Dr. Samuels. That's all I have this evening.
Great. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Glass. All right. We are now going to shift to our policy approvals. Dr. Samuels gave us all a task, and we worked, the team included a lot of administrators worked very hard to update a lot of policies. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Samuels for the policy approvals.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we're certainly going to take a look at that in series. First of all, I'd like to also mention and join you in thanking the team. When we think about policies for any school district really provide information in terms of guidance for the district in terms of proceeding, the guidance, governance, etc. And policy is made by the board, etc. And administrative rules and regulations really show how those policies are to be implemented. And there's administrative rules and regulations are developed by the school team, administrators, etc., so that those policies can be implemented. The task and the charge is quite noteworthy. So over 244 items were reviewed by the team. And a yeoman's job was done by the entire team. Administrators, nurses, teachers, the superintendent's cabinet, etc. Many of you on the call. And when we think about the 100 series, that includes programs. The 200 series includes pupils, and Mr. Nordhol is just showing everyone as we discuss this, what some of those policies happen to be. Many are new policies. In many instances, the district had policies that dated back to 1983. So to approve them tonight is significant. The 600 series reflects finances. The 700 series is in reference to property. The 800 series, operations. And the 900 series reflects community. And this is, again, quite significant for the district. It puts us on sound footing. Many of those policies are new, and many of the policies, again, have been updated. And what will occur is that PSBA will, since the official approval will be done in just a few moments, once that approval is done, they will go through the edits and they will upload all of the new policies on our website. Again, that is significant as we work very hard to adhere to compliance issues, procedures, and protocol moving forward. And one of the things that Mr. Chairman talked about today is the importance of the district staying up with policies. As new policies are shared and presented, working with teams to actually examine those policies, take a look at how those policies impact the Harrisburg School District moving forward. And one of the next charges will be, to address the administrative rules and regulations. So I must say it is a distinct pleasure to approve the policies from the various series as you see this evening. And once again, thank you to everyone for doing an incredible job, a yeoman's job in completing this important work. So thank you. And I know great things will come as these policies guide and support the direction of the Harrisburg School District. And the policies range from academics, vision and mission, to protocols in reference to, sudden cardiac arrest, how we work in collaboration with members of the public through our title programs, academic programs, how our finances are handled, material, supplies, electronic devices, etc. The one note that I will say is that there is one policy in particular, policy 816, that is approved pending review by the solicitor. So officially, it is a pleasure to approve the policies as reflected and presented. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Dr. Samuels.
Thank you.
Next, we will shift to our board committee updates. We will start with the capital area IU update. Mr. Brian Carter.
Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to promote Mr. Carter, but he may not be able to speak. He's still in the attendee list. He's not
Okay,
an accepted panelist yet.
okay. We'll shift to the Dauphin County Technical School Joint Operating Committee, Mr. Jim Thompson and Mr. Judd Pittman.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'm gonna ask Mr. Thompson to provide the update this evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much. The Joint Operating Committee met on November 10th, and of particular interest to the Harrisburg School District is our students participated in the visitation to the Dauphin County Tech School. We led among all of our members in sending our entire cohort of 8th grade students to see the Dauphin County Tech facility and have the opportunity to sample the programs that Dauphin County Tech has to offer. And that elicited not more than a little jealousy on the part of the other school districts. Dauphin County Tech, it's a great program, and our kids would benefit greatly from attending. And that's our report.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And I'm just going to make one quick comment with that as well. And that was, when I spoke to the director out there, we actually had a conversation about 2 weeks ago when we were together at a conference. And her exact words to me were, the Harrisburg students were the best well-behaved students who came out, and the most engaged students in terms of the tours that they received. So I'm very happy that all of these students across the board in the district, 8th grade students, had an opportunity to attend. So I appreciate that, and thank you. All right, the Pennsylvania School Boards Association, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you again. The PSBA is organizing their January-February 2022 bulletin specifically for newly elected board directors. We will have 4 new board members starting on December 6th. Mr. Roy has been on the board in the near recent past. Since his service on the board, there's been a state mandated professional development requirement, and 2 suggestions for the receivers team. First, the state mandated professional development for board members. It can be challenging to get a spot in those seminars. So the new board members need to achieve, I think it's a half-day professional development that's offered at PSBA. And if we can get those new board members signed up, that orientation would really be excellent for our new board members, especially the 3 board members. I believe we have 3 new board members that have never served on a public school board. Secondly, one of the seminars that they offer that's again mandated by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is a seminar on the effects of childhood trauma on student performance and behavior. And for those of us in the know in Harrisburg, that is a topic of great concern among our families in Harrisburg. So it was one of the great seminars that I recall from my orientation session. Finally, PSBA offers dedicated board orientation seminars. We did this, I believe, shortly after I rejoined the board in the fall of 2019, and I would suggest that we consider scheduling the professional staff from PSBA to come back and do revised sessions with our entire board to bring everybody up to speed on the statewide issues of the day. And that's my report for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And the last report out tonight will be the Act 141 committee, and that will be Mr. Douglas Thompson, leader.
At this time, I'm actually going to ask to redirect to Dr. Susky as I missed this month's meeting for a personal reason.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson, leader. For the Act 141 Advisory Committee, we met on Thursday evening, November 11th. At that time, Mr. Nornhold presented a preview of the dashboard for the amended recovery plan, which outlined all 62 initiatives and gave a space for us to be able to report out to the public on the progress of each of those initiatives. So we are going to be looking at rolling that out on the public website in the very near future. The rest of the meeting time was devoted to time with our new superintendent. Mr. Turman addressed the committee, and he was able to share some of his ideas and thoughts since his time with us the past 4.5 months. And he was able to elicit feedback from the advisory committee on those thoughts. And that was our meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Susky. Before I turn it back over to Dr. Samuels to adjourn for the evening, I would like to just make a note as the administrative staff will be making a recommendation and we'll be looking at adjusting the schedule for next week. So all parents, all students, all staff members can expect an email from the superintendent first thing in the morning in terms of the messaging and what next week will look like. Just very quickly, all students will have off all of next week. So students were to come in on Monday and a half day on Tuesday. Students will now have off Monday and have off Tuesday. This is an opportunity for everyone to kind of regroup as we come back and reset and get ready for when we come back from Thanksgiving break. So please expect messaging from the superintendent first thing in the morning in terms of what next week's schedule will look like. But for all parents and all students and then all staff, it would be students will not be in school on Monday and they will not have the half day on Tuesday. So this Friday will be their last day until we return from break. Thank you. Dr. Samuels?
Thank you very much for sharing that important message for parents. And I know that will also be communicated in multiple ways, connected messaging as well. And I know, Mr. Term, you'll share information about feeding, et cetera. Thank you for that. That's very important. And we would ask that everyone on this call, everyone participating, share the information also with as many families as possible as well. I'd also like to take this moment before we adjourn to mention that December, there will not be a business meeting as we typically conduct business meetings. Instead, on December 6th, which is the first Monday of the month, which is consistent across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, that time will be devoted to the reorganization of the school board. As Mr. Thompson mentioned, there will be several new board members that are joining the school board. And we'd also like to take this moment, once again, as Mr. Chairman shared at the beginning of the meeting, to thank Mr. Pittman, to thank Ms. Fowler, Ms. Wilburn, and also Ms. Kadatis for the outstanding service that they have provided to the students, families, and staff members of the Harrisburg School District. So we would ask that you join us on Monday, December 6th at 6:00 p.m. As new board members are sworn in and take the reign of school board of directors. And on that note, I'd like to thank you all so very much. I'd like to thank you all for all that you do on behalf of the students and families of the Harrisburg School District. And together with the entire team and superintendent, to wish you each and every one of you a happy and wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Thank you all. Have a wonderful